super excited to showcase today a case study between University of Maryland, Piedmont, ourselves, Xennial, as well as Aviation Workforce Solutions, and just showcase how we're using virtual reality to scale, to help schools grow their programs. And we hope you enjoyed this session. We're going to try to have at the end quite a bit of time, so we can also do a Q&A and answer any questions you have. We'd love to also engage quite a bit with you guys, because at the end of the day, our goal is to provide value to all of you. So I'll get us going. First, the team, so you guys gonna do a little bit of intro here.
First, so I got a loud voice. So I'm Chris Proscia, University of Maryland Eastern Shore. We're a brand new program. We just got our certificate back in November. So brand new. Our first class is expected in end of August. We're going to be working with Piedmont. We're working on the partnership with that one. So some of our job is going to be to provide workforce for them, but at the same time also feeding the industry.
Good morning, I'm Shawn Villarreal with Piedmont Airlines, Director of Tech Support and Engineering. Here working with the team, obviously maintenance training falls under my area, my organization. So we're looking at adopting new technologies into our training program, so that way our new technicians coming in can be better trained for the workforce.
My name is Douglas. I'm the CEO of Xennial, the virtual reality partner.
Shawn Gallagan, Aviation Workforce Solutions. I helped start up 147s. I was instrumental in helping out with UMES as well as a number of other schools across the country, and look at different solutions for different schools based on their needs. One of those type of solutions is virtual reality, which we'll get into a little bit more on why this was a good makeup for this school.
And Olivia, take over.
Is on first?
Yeah.
We'll work together.
So this isn't my slide, but that's okay. So why VR? With starting up right, not necessarily, most schools or some schools might not necessarily have the large amount of money that's sitting right there to buy the aircraft equipment right straight off the bat. With VR, with the stuff, how I've been implementing it, there's a King Air module, PT6, piston engine, Cessna 172s, towing. So a lot of this stuff can get you started, right, at a lower cost than having to go straight out and buy all the equipment initially. Everything is lined up with these folks, with the ACS. I'm actually working with them, identifying specific line items that their programs cover that meet the ACS requirements. It's fun to play with. That's the other side of it, right? It's a giant video game. But overall, right, the last statement is better prepare the technicians to go to work. Right? Nothing replaces actually doing it. Right? Everyone in the room can vouch for that. You've got to get your hands dirty. However, based off of what you're doing, right, you've got the safety component to it. Right? Running engines, operating engines, towing aircraft. Right? If you've got a way to introduce it in a very safe environment, climate controlled, you're not worrying about the rain, the wind, and snow. There's that thing that you have to pardon me, I've been talking for the last week, so I apologize for this. But it's a way to introduce these different concepts to your students in a safe, controlled environment with these programs. Also, I know they're going to be getting to whatever, there's a multiplayer function where you can have a class of students running through the stuff with the instructor. So all your fun little avatars, and I'm not that big on technology, where you get into the fancy stuff, whatever. But it's an opportunity for a safe, controlled environment to prepare everyone to step into, lack of a better phrase, the danger zone. They've got a head start prior to. So we're working with these guys. There is an ERJ 145 module. Basic familiarization, basic systems. Initially, it was with the Piedmont folks. Because I'm going to be partnering with Piedmont, I've got access to it too. We're all giving feedback on what works, what doesn't, what needs more focus. One of the big things we're gonna do with the TPP program that Kurt was talking about, right? Once we get partnered, I'm going to have Piedmont students. With the new 147, we have the ability to adjust our curriculum, right, still in compliance. Where instead of teaching hydraulic system, generic, I can do hydraulic systems on a 145. These folks put it together. I've got that introductory aspect to it, right? Before they hit Piedmont, theoretically, I can help cut down their in-dock training because they've already become familiar with it.
And that's the nice thing is, with that partnership, we get to introduce any of our programs into the modules itself and partner with them in order for them to develop the technician right away, right? When they're in that 147 school and experiencing 145, as we've heard this week, it's focused around GA, right? But in this case here, giving them that module allows them to show a regional aircraft of what they're going to see in the real working environment.
Perfect, so some of the modules that they've got already, which I mentioned, King Air C90, got one in my hangar, right? With me, so this is the second school that I've been with. I was with Hallmark University in San Antonio, their AMP school, came up here. Initially, I was kind of iffy on the VR. I've argued with Shawn, argued with Laura kind of thing, where, why do I want the VR when I've got the plane, the engine, whatever, sitting in my hangar, right? And I'm all about getting dirty. I've got the guy, everything's stained, disgusting, that's just how it is. I still love turning wrenches. Well, brand new program. In Salisbury, aviation is basically non-existent. I'm hitting up all the different schools, and so who's interested in aviation? Well, I don't want to be a pilot. I never said anything about being a pilot. The aircraft maintenance perspective in Salisbury, Maryland is non-existent. People know Piedmont, they don't know they fixed the planes there too. So here's a way for folks that might not necessarily be mechanically inclined in any way, shape, or form. You know, they've never had the ability other than flying on a plane. They've never seen anything else. Here's another way where, here's your goggles, split the class in half. You guys, come with me. You folks, start there, right? Smaller groups, right? Easier to control, have the ability to get more information and answer more questions. You split the group. They start with the VR. They're playing with stuff. Younger generation. What do they live on? Right? We're all old in this room.
No,
we did books.
That's not true.
He's oldest. Right? We learned with books. That's how it was. Here's your textbook. Here's your manual. Read it, memorize it, love it. Let's go apply the information. This is another tool for us to use, specifically geared toward that younger generation where that's all they know. That makes sense, right? And all it is a tool that's in a safe, controlled environment. One less possibility to get hurt.
Just click again. So this is the video of the actual solution, the Embraer 145 that we co-developed with with both UMES and Piedmont. So just gives you, I think some of the things that we like to always highlight is the quality of the solution. But I'll let Shawn speak a little bit more about this one.
Yeah, the nice thing is the development time didn't take long at all. We had the team come up into our Middletown facility when the aircraft was parked and took time to take pictures, videos, and learn the aircraft from us, right? From that, it took around, about 9 months here in order to develop the module, and that was on our time. We could have definitely accelerated that had we had more time on our end, but the nice thing is giving them access to the aircraft, to take those pictures, the videos, and then having the quality control back and forth in order to make changes to the module. Was there differences in our configuration specific to Piedmont that we could introduce to it? And there was some fine tuning that we did. We went back and forth what was in the manual versus how we have the equipment and design. So in the end, it turned out a fantastic product for familiarization for the aircraft. So it was very well done.
Another thing with with the Embraer, and even there's a 172 module, pre-flight familiarization, all that. In the program, when you're in the module, it's checklist driven, right? Always use the book, always use the checklist. You know, the 172, so UMES also has a flight school. Right? We've got a 141 flight school. When I got access to the 172 modules, I gave it to pilots, which was absolutely hilarious because they didn't understand the fact that you can sit in a chair and do everything. They're wandering around the hangar looking like idiots. It was awesome. Like, we all enjoy making fun of pilots. But, you know, pre-flight, yes, maintenance does inspections. That is our bread and butter. However, I know what I'm looking at. Maintenance looks at it from a totally different perspective. This is built from the maintenance perspective. I gave it to pilots. Let them mess with it. Let them see. I got feedback from them to give to, you know, the Xennial folks. Works out great. The biggest thing that they enjoyed, and I agree with it too, is the checklist. There's a tablet that opens up in it, step by step. And with the 172, it actually follows the POH. So POH instructions on how to do the pre-flight, it's the same flow, the same, it's all the exact same information. So now, younger generation again, they see it as a game. I mean, I see it as a game. It's fun to play with. But you give the 18-year-old, right, straight out of high school, read this book, right? Not all the information is going to stick. It's going to take more repetition. They're used to the digital age. Here's a way that follows tech data, you know, is in conjunction with ACS line items. It's also in a video game platform, lack of a better phrase, that's going to get them engaged a whole lot faster. I'm not going to be, me specifically, I'm not going to use this to teach any specific sections, right? It's used to add to. Because, you know, my faculty, we're all going to be older. We come from the book age, where here's the explanation. When I always use with the students, I can explain 14 different ways to use a screwdriver. One of them is going to click, right? It's finding that one way to make that connection. We go through the old guy mode. If old guy mode doesn't necessarily work, here's the new guy version, right? The younger, let's play with something and have an opportunity where if there's a group of kids that does not quite grab it, we all put on the headsets. I can put on a headset too. So now we're all in a classroom, you know, a virtual classroom, being able to walk through different inspections. There are no maintenance procedures yet. With the PT6 module they have, I've already been talking with the folks with some additional changes that are coming along, because there is an operational aspect of it. But unfortunately, with where they're at, it's a one-time go. Here's the startup procedure, you move the throttles, right? All your indicators move the way they're supposed to. However, every mechanic in the room, you run up an engine, what's the first thing you do, right? You gas it. You like to see what's going on. I've already talked with the folks with Xennial, and that's one of the changes that they're looking to make now, because when you're following the engine start checklist on the PT6, it's a one and done at the moment. So as you add fuel, you know, and there's the voiceovers of watch your oil indication, watch your fuel flow. Now this is going to happen. If you miss something, at the moment, you've got to redo that module to see it again. And it just, so I'm a PT6, PC12 guy. So this specifically hit close to home, trying to look at all these different things. And in my opinion, there was some stuff missing. It took a simple, hey, this is what I noticed, right? Two folks, Xennial that I'm talking with that I've been dealing with for, over a year now, that's an easy fix. So just because there's a module that's there already doesn't mean they can't update, modify, whatever. So it's not a one and done, figuratively speaking, and correct me if I'm stepping outside of my lane on that one. But with the experience I've had for the last year working with them, everything's modifiable. And I will apologize for my English because I'm a mechanic. We don't talk about it, right? Ready, Teddy, Lucky, Lucy, that's how we go. Right, back to the specific slide. And I'm really good at talking if you haven't figured it out, so if you need to jump in, tell me shut up there, too. Right, you've got the unlimited practices digital, no consumables. It does track through it. And I've got it on my laptop, what sections they've done, how much time they've spent with it, so you can monitor what they're doing. If they're falling behind on, with your actual hands-on practical, here's a tool that makes it available. Man, you need to spend it over the next week. I need you to spend at least an hour messing with this. We have the ability to track and see exactly what they're doing. Me personally, the recruiting aspect of it. With coming out of Salisbury again, we're the only A&P school in the area. No one knew anything about it. I've been spending lots of time with Piedmont, going to high schools, middle schools, and all last week, we've got this, they call it junior achievement. It's a career fair for 8th graders. I spent 2 days, which explains my voice, talking to 8th graders about aviation. I brought my stuff, I brought engines, fun things, bright shiny things to catch attention, and a flight simulator with our 141. I had more kids waiting in line to look at an ERJ, which sparked even more questions. And then administrators wanted to jump in on top of it. So the recruiting aspect is awesome. Over the next couple months, I'm visiting lots more schools. Now all I have to bring is a laptop and headsets. That's my recruiting tools now. With all the different modules that I have access to right now, I can set something different on every headset. Give it to the students, let them mess with it, right? Let them play with it. It's something to spark the imagination, something to get them excited. And just in this short period of time, it's worked for me, right? Like I said, my school, it is brand new. First class is in August. I'm on track by next month to have a waiting list because I'm capping my classes at 25. To go from non-existent to I'm over 2/3 full right now, to have a waiting list with zero marketing. That's the other side too. We haven't marketed at all. What's getting the kids interested is the video game. Here's what you're doing. Everything's to scale. So the 145. You have the ability, you're outside the plane, you click another button, you're in the cockpit. It is to scale. And it's absolutely hilarious watching the kids hit cockpit and they all do this. Right? They think they're going to hit there, because if you stand up, you're staying in the skin. So the fact of, this is how much room you have. And with the 8th graders, it's, I don't want to be a pilot. And some of the big boys. I can't fit in there. I'm like, you're right. But guess what? Being a technician, so it's what I was explaining. So you got to lean down, cock. You see those pedals down there? You're going to work up behind it. How am I doing that? Well, you're going to flip yourself upside down in the chair. Well, that's another story. But you're going to become a contortionist.
You'd hate to see that. Pilot can't do that.
But it's just one of those, it's the experience for the kids. I say the biggest asset that where it's playing out as the biggest asset is purely for recruiting. It's easy to transport, and it's even, when I spent the 2 days there, talking with our flight school, our chief pilot, he's a Navy guy, so yeah, I'm Air Force, I have to give him a hard time. But it's one of those, so how many people were on the flight sim? Decent amount. Well, how many people were playing your stupid game? I opened up the laptop, spun it around, and had 10 hours of documented experience on it. I can see how long it was actively used. You flip that into the school environment, you know what they're looking at, how long they're looking at it. Or if it's one of those, okay, he said look at this stuff, flip, okay, yeah, I'm bored, I'm done. Right? We have the ability to see what they're actually doing. And the other part, it's fun. So us specifically, right? new school, but second school, so I'm not completely ignorant in the ways of the world kind of thing. Moving into the future, right, we're looking to identify different ways to motivate students. I've already hit that one up, right? You know, the kids live on their phones. It's all about phones, tablets, digital. They don't want to sit in front of a book, right? I'm still forcing them to use a book, because if they decide to go GA versus the corporate, commercial side, they're working at a mom and pop shop, they still have to know how to read a book. But what else can I do to get him excited? Because we all sat in the room, death by PowerPoint, and of course, what am I doing? Death by PowerPoint, right? We can handle it. They can't, right? Attention spans of a gnat. We all have seen that one. It's finding ways to get them excited, new tools, new technologies, right? Modern training techniques. Working with these folks, what else can we add to it? What makes it more beneficial to us specifically, Schoolhouse, right? And the best part is we're aligning, and I'm working with them, aligning with the ACS. So it is a legit tool that we can use in the Schoolhouse that meets the federal requirements. And then, 1 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, right? We're finding ways to motivate, right? I'm third generation mechanic. It's all I've ever known. I grew up on a flight line watching my dad work on bombers. I refer to it as I got bit by the bug at a very young age. Salisbury specifically, nobody knows. So it's finding a way to get them bit by the bug. It has to be exciting. I knew I'm gonna be bored learning to sing in all these classes, okay, that's part of how it works. Nowadays, the short attention span, if they're not engaged, if they're not excited about it, they're gonna lose interest and walk away. We can't afford that, and all of us know that. We need technicians. The way to get them is we need to cater to them, keep them excited, keep them motivated, right, in order to feed the industry. Piedmont, I'm gonna stop talking for a second.
Thank you. So I just have one slide here, and I wanted to touch on a couple of things for how the airlines are going to use the equipment, right? Previously in my career, I spent 8 years as a training manager for Piedmont, and what's the first question you always get asked? How much does it cost to train a mechanic, and how long does it take, right? This technology lets you reduce some of that cost. When you think about it, we need an aircraft to do hands-on training, right? It's just part of the game. And we need someone that's experienced and qualified themselves in order to do that on-the-job training. That impacts the nightly production. The aircraft comes in, there's a set number of hours that we have to work on, right? Now we're impacting production by taking a lead mechanic in order to do that on-the-job training to another person. And it takes multiple occasions for that training to be introduced to the new technician. This allows you to break that down, right? Going into the classroom environment with that VR module, getting familiar with the inspections around certain tasks, where things are located on the aircraft, how the cockpit actually is laid out in the instrumentation. Getting that introduction right away is vital in how they learn. As he pointed out, death by PowerPoint for years, right? When I stepped into that position, it was instructor-led, it was books with paper, and it was death by PowerPoint. This gets us into that generation, like he said, is they're always on their phone, they're looking at YouTube, they're trying to advance their careers by understanding video. This is just that, right? It allows us to do that. And it reduces those costs associated with having a lead train another person, right? Because that's now 2 individuals being taken out of the job. Not only that, we know that when we do OJT, there's costs associated for consumables, whether that be lubricants, sealants, or if there's an error during that OJT task. As we administer OJT, if an individual damages a bearing on a nose wheel assembly as an example, there's a real potential that damaging or not assembling that assembly correctly can cause major costs, right? In our case, doing that bearing incorrectly, putting it backwards, it's going to cost us a nose wheel assembly, tires and bearings, over $15,000, right? So getting them familiar before they ever actually do that work, seeing the assembly, seeing how it's on the aircraft, reduces that likelihood of damage, gets them more comfortable with the task, and of course the nice thing is they can repeat it numerous times before they ever get down to the workforce. That's huge, right? As an airline, we like to reduce costs and keep the aircraft out in service. Also, enabling classroom mobility and functionality anywhere, right? The airlines make changes all the time. You know, we'll get a call, hey, you're gonna go on a new route, whatever the case would be. This allows us to go somewhere with the equipment and train somebody that's never seen the aircraft, right? We talked about it yesterday on one of the presentations that our on-call mechanics, they're coming straight out of schools, 5 days later, they're working on our aircraft. This allows us to go and train those on-call mechanics with familiarization to the aircraft before it ever goes into that station, which is huge. It's a huge advantage. Not only that, you don't always have access to a classroom. Sometimes it's a conference room, like in here. Sometimes it's a hangar environment. But it allows you a safe, controlled environment where you can introduce that aircraft, right? Because it might not be going there for another month. At least you get to introduce that aircraft before it ever gets there. And the third one here for any airline, what's the hardest thing to do when you're refleeting, right? Because you don't have the aircraft yet. You know it's coming, you're trying to spool up your maintenance program, trying to get your parts allocated, your tools, and of course there's the other big one, and that's the training, right? The initial training has to be done to those mechanics before that new fleet type enters. And this, by our experience working with the team, we're going to be able to get with them early on and say, look, this is the aircraft type that's coming. We need a familiarization module. And then from there, once we get the maintenance program up and running, we're able to introduce new topics within it. So that way, we can go to that station that's going to be getting that aircraft in the future and say, okay, we need to establish time to start getting them familiar with that new aircraft type before it ever arrives. And that is key to the success of those new mechanics at that station, or even senior mechanics. So it's a huge benefit for us. So we're really looking forward to how we're going to adopt this. We're in early implementation phase, so we're getting ready to actually start utilizing it here shortly. So yeah, it's a great advantage for us. So.
So I think one of the, most important things for us is to be able to do this with subject matter experts, because that's the only way in which we can build things that actually add value to your programs. And this was a great project for us. We have an airline and an institution that are coming together to partner so we can do what the industry is asking for, which is better prepared technicians to go into the workforce and have an immediate impact on their business, right? So from our side, we've been building virtual reality and augmented reality solutions for 9 years already. The last 5 with a huge focus in the aviation industry. We just had a great opportunity to actually meet Shawn when he was at Broward College leading the School of Aviation there, and understood the potential of this technology for the aviation industry. And from there, we just drank the Kool-Aid, and now we're here in our 5th year and just continuing to build more solutions for training in the aviation space. Of course, the 3 main things that we hear is how can we train people, how we can prepare people better, or how can we upskill people with these technologies in a way that makes sense from a cost perspective as well as a time perspective as well. But I think the good thing that we are already hearing now is that there is enough years that these technologies have been implemented, where there are studies already showing the impact of these technologies when it comes to learning. So as you can see on the first one, this was a study by PwC. It was a global study around the impact of virtual reality, and I think one of the first things that you see there, it's faster to train than in the classroom, and that's because with virtual reality, not only can you do hands-on, virtual hands-on procedures, familiarizations, like this gentleman we're talking about, but also they can do it anytime, anywhere. You can be on an aircraft and actually be training on an aircraft. So it's increased training by 4 times. I think the reason why it's more confident to apply the skills learned after training is because it allows you, virtual reality just allows you, for the sake of it, to train 100 times, 500 times. We've been working with an aircraft towing company where, for them to be able to get a technician or somebody to do an aircraft, it takes them 6 to 8 months for that person to be prepared. Now we can have somebody actually do the aircraft towing for 500 times and actually speed the process of them being able to do that procedure.
more emotionally connected than content to content and classroom learners. And I think it goes to the fact that you are in an immersed environment, in a video game type of environment, actually doing things. And I think that's really the most important thing here. You're actually interacting with the environments, the aircraft, the components, the engines. So you're actually learning by doing. And when it comes to the last one, 4 times more focused on the e-learning peers, we're talking about how these young students actually are so into their phones or being distracted by their peers and things like that. Virtual reality actually immerses you into experience to the point where you're highly focused on the experience that you're doing and learning. And that's why these numbers are now showing up in these studies, is because of what the technology now is capable of accomplishing. So the top 3 benefits, and this gentleman also touched on, that we're seeing with all the different institutions. So not only do we work with schools of aviation, we also work with other corporate partners as well. We call them partners because we work very closely together. But the first one is that you eliminate the risk of injury and damages to the aircraft. One of our biggest clients, I'll showcase the case study in a little bit, it's CAE. And one of the things they wanted to do is how do we get technicians to work on their Gulfstream program. So you want new technicians or some technicians to not be familiar with the aircraft because damage to the aircraft, as you guys will know, can basically get the aircraft to be standing for 3 months without being used, and then you have to recertify it and things of that nature. So that was one of the key things. The other one is just what we just mentioned, unlimited practice. They can practice a procedure, they can familiarize with the aircraft, for 100 times, 500 times, whatever they want, and it just gets them to really be better prepared to perform a procedure or a task after doing training. And they can do it, of course, anytime, anywhere. And the last one is program growth and scalability. As we mentioned, from a recruiting perspective, being able to go to schools with a headset and being able to showcase the different things that you offer in your programs. It's a pretty easy way to go around and be mobile. And then from a cost efficiency, when you think about what the industry, you're preparing students to go into the industry is asking for technicians that are prepared to work on Airbuses, on Boeings, on Gulfstreams, and things like that. So this allows you to actually create a full library of different aircraft, different engines, that you really don't have to spend hundreds of thousands in order to bring into your programs. As Chris and as Shawn was mentioning, this is not a replacement whatsoever for the physical things that they need to do, the physical touching of an aircraft, of a tool, or things like that. This is a supplement and a complement and a tool that's another tool in your set of things that you can offer your students to learn better. We have a growing list of both aviation clients from the perspective, as I mentioned, we do quite a bit of work with CAE. Red 6 is actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Red 6, is a company is working with the Air Force right now. They have an augmented reality headset that actually allows the Air Force pilots, while they're in the air, actually to do combat training against an augmented reality aircraft. So it's a really incredible solution. So we partner with them to build part of their platform, of course, Piedmont here, University of Maryland, or we're also working with a school in Naples, Florida, Lorenzo Walker. And one of our first actually schools that we worked with was Summit Tech Academy in Missouri as well. So we're hoping that here some of you wanna hopefully partner with us. We have a booth, just a little bit of a sales pitch here. So if you guys wanna come by, just demo and see the work that we're doing, we'd love to have you there. So from a pro portfolio, like as we work with Shawn, as we work with schools of aviation, we understand that the most important thing is to start from the basic pieces that we need to build. And familiarization seems to be a common theme when we're working with different organizations. So as part of the products that we're building to enable off-the-shelf or ready-to-implement solutions, we already started to grow our portfolio of things that we can bring to the table to make the deployments faster and easier. So the first one is an intro to aviation that has a Cessna 172 with those 3 modules, as you can see here: familiarization, pre-flight check, a GVI. And the intro to aviation careers is a module that some schools are using for recruiting purposes as well. The second piece, which is that we built with this gentleman here, especially with Chris, was the King Air C90. We also have their assistance familiarization and visual inspection. And of course, what we're now, as we continue to grow, we know that components, engines are really important. So we also have a PT6 engine and a light coming engine that it's also part of another package product that also can be deployed immediately. The other piece that I think is important is what also we're building with Piedmont and UMES, which is how can we start building larger aircraft that prepare the students to go into the industry better familiarized with the type of aircraft they're going to work on. And the last one, as I was mentioning, we're also looking at potential areas where the technology can be of value. In Florida, as you guys know, we have a huge aviation market. So aircraft towing, there's a lot of aircraft towing. We have a lot of like the regional airports that we have around. So for smaller aircraft, like your King Airs, your Gulfstreams, your Falcons, and things like that. So it's starting to be a solution that has a lot of interest with our partners. Also with Shawn at NBAA, we're using this solution as part of the maintenance competition program that the schools take on during those conferences as well. And then one of the things that we're doing here, so we now are partners with ATEC as well. So this program now has a special discount. It's actually a third of the license pricing for anybody that's an ATEC member. So we're also trying to make it a lot easier from a cost perspective for ATEC members to adopt these technologies. So on the corporate side, as I mentioned, we're working with CAE with their civil aviation training program. As you guys know, this is one of the largest global training companies in the aviation space. They wanted to focus first on their Gulfstream, so we got to actually build 2 Gulfstreams, a G650 and a G500, 250 steps procedure for preparing the aircraft for maintenance. One of the main things that we wanted to do was procedure training in order to increase knowledge retention for the technicians. The second one, which I think is critical, it's high fidelity of the aircraft or the engines themselves. I mean, they gotta look the same way and with the fidelity of the different parts or aircraft that the students are gonna work on in the real world. And I think one of the other things, as you guys have seen with virtual reality, you have controllers, but that's not the natural way in which technicians interact with tools, with aircraft components. So we actually do full hand tracking, which means that you use basically just the headset. We have the sensors on the headset allow to track your hands, and you can actually work with virtual tools, do all the maintenance procedures, everything only with your hands, because that's the way technicians work in the field, right? So this is just a video of this program. Same thing as what you saw with the Embraer. Extremely, high quality interiors, exteriors of the aircraft, down to even the reflections of, as you guys can see, the high fidelity on the landing gear there. They're basically what we call a digital twin or a replica of the aircraft itself. As you guys can see, I mean, the level of detail that we're able to accomplish is pretty high. And then here is what I was mentioning about hand tracking. This is actually somebody just basically with the headset using their hands to, to basically push buttons, circuits, and things of that nature. So we can get to a really high level of fidelity. And these are procedure where they're actually checking the different panels on the aircraft. We have the checklist, as the gentleman were mentioning. And the good thing, I think one of the things that was kind of really interesting to hear from CAE was that sometimes they can't force the technicians to read the warnings when they're going through the task cards or the manuals. Here, we actually force them to read the warnings and to acknowledge they have read the warnings so that they can move on to the next step. So that's an interesting, and that was an interesting fact from them. And then the only thing I wanted to mention before I close with this last slide, the modules that you saw that we offer, they're really in-depth modules. Like each of the products have 4 different modules. Each of those modules is between 35 and 45 minutes. So it's not like just overviews, 5-minute presentations of something. These are things that where we really went in deep in order to provide a tool for all of you to actually teach your students something that's meaningful. And then the reasons why schools of aviation and other aviation corporate partners are working with us is, first of all, because this has been our focus during the last year, so we have a lot of experience now building aircraft, components, hangars, and we're highly focused on the aviation space. We continue to invest into it, and we'll continue to do that. The second one, I think it's a benefit for you that we have already gone through a lot of buildings. So we have hangars, we have aircrafts, we have checklists, we have a lot of components already ready. So not only are the products that are ready to deploy that you can implement in your programs, we can also partner with you, like we did with Piedmont and UMES, to actually build a custom solution specific for your program, and we can reuse a lot of the components that we have already built. And the thing is, we always think about, all right, not only building a piece that is contained within itself, but how does it become part of a bigger strategy in the aviation industry? So from our side, we're always thinking, how do we bring solutions to the table that we can scale, that we can add maintenance tasks in the future? So it's not just creating the familiarization pieces, it's how do we get the students actually working and learning hands-on tasks in this environment. So with that, I'm gonna pass it on to Shawn.
My name is Shawn. I run a company called Aviation Workforce Solutions. I help start up 147 schools. My experiences, I've operated and managed 2 Part 147s, been in education for 30 years. Love aviation as my sandbox. Operating one school, we had 49 high schools come every day, dual enrollment, half in the morning, half in the afternoon, had over 1,000 students. I've seen a lot of students go into a program and not be successful. A lot of students that come there, they'll miss a day. How do you make up lessons? You got a student that's falling behind. How do you keep them up when you're an instructor with 25 of those students you're trying to push through? Back in the day where you only had 30 hours and you missed 1 hour, you didn't have time to go back. The things that I see regarding the VR and how it can help schools and why I bring this up as an option for schools to look at is just because of the versatility of it. You want to buy a PT6? PT6s are going out, they're sky high right now. You want to kind of see PT6 that has all the accessories, they're going $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. And that's not even probably including the stand. How do you buy 1 or 2 of those, for $100,000, $200,000, where you can buy one headset, which is the you all buy, it's not a special headset or anything like that, it's just an Oculus headset, and you have a whole class of 25 people that's learning that system. If you have a student that's absent tomorrow, are you going to have time to go back the next day and reteach that? What are you going to do with your other 24 students? Headsets come into that part of that. Space limitations. UMS.
We don't run our facility already, and I don't even have any students.
How many square feet do you have?
20,000?
20,000 is pretty nice hangar, right? If you got a school, most hangars are not 20,000 when you start up with. You're starting in a very small environment. Let's say you did have all the money, where are you going to put it on? Where are you going to put 3 or 4 PT6s? Where are you going to put a King Air? Where are you going to put an RJ? I mean, you just can't put everything out on the ramp. So space becomes a whole issue. So now you can get students on current equipment, current aircraft and engines and not lose any space. Standardized learning. I had day shift, night shift programs. My night shift was not the same as my day shift teachers. Then you get people just kind of wanting to jockey for different places because they know that's where they're going to get the best instruction. VR, and it gets back into their management program because we've got an API that pulls back into your learning, your LMS if you wanted it to that way to keep track. But now you're ensuring that everyone's getting the exact same training. You don't, if you have one teacher that, and this happens a lot with our military people, they have a lot of experience, and a lot of GA or commercial don't have anything to do. They never timed the MAG. When's the last time they timed the MAG? So you got people that come in, yeah, they're going to teach it. But man, is it teach to fidelity where they're going to actually be able to take the writtens and pass the oral and practicals? Because the instructor, he's never touched the MAG in 30 years since he went to school. Now you got a system that's in place that will be consistently training them on all those requirements so that everyone has that exact same training, and it's of a quality that you can be proud of and your students will be done well on. New aircraft models. When I was at my first little Baker, we had a MD-8, we had a 737, we had a 727 that we've never even got access to because of field control issues. But we never had anything new. And with, people get excited, oh, we got a JT, 8, oh, great. You know how hard that thing's to move around your hangar? There's certain things that we just couldn't teach the latest. And what did the industry always would come to me? We need you to teach this landing gear. I go, fantastic, give me the landing gear. You want me to teach that engine? Fine, give it to me. No one wanted to give me anything. Because it was stuff that they're actually still in production and that wasn't a decent, they needed it more and it's worth more than a tax write-off to me. VR, you got an ERJ that can come in now, right? You got a newer King Gears that can come in. More of the business jets. So now you can keep your students more engaged with modern stuff so that when they do go out, they at least have a clue of what it's going to look like and where things are. Remote on-demand training. If you've got a large population, someone's going to get sick. Something's going to happen to somebody and they're going to miss instruction. How are you going to make that time back up? Well, you could always have a hired teacher that's on overtime or hourly, that's going to stay in the afternoon to teach those students that are falling behind or that's missed time. Give them a headset and say, okay, we did PT6 today, put the headset on, and we need you to run through this, because he's going to check tomorrow and look in line and see how many hours you put in, and what tasks you did and how well you did those tasks. Much better control of that environment, and the student's not falling behind. Student fails one block, what does that do for him in his whole career track? Well, shoot, most schools, they're going to have to wait until he comes back around to that course again to retake that one block of instruction. How is that student going? Then you got the problem of attrition, right? He's going to feel that he's now behind, he's lost out of his cohort. What's he going to do? We kind of now keep him in there, and now you've got a lot better chance of them finishing their program. Immersive and realistic training. It is fun watching them when they get into something, they duck down. I'm in total control of my body, okay? My first experience in VR was with a forklift operation. Flew out, this is when we originally met, I was at Broward College running their aviation programs. Flew out to California to the VR conference. I got on a forklift, and by the way, forklift certified. Come out there, and I'm sitting there, and I go, it can't trick me because I'm in control of my body. I went there, and when it stopped, I went forward. I go, damn, I know that I'm not moving. I know it, right? Yet my body still responded. And that just freaked me out because I'm in control of myself, right? So you get into these environments and you actually now remember things better because it's not, you can't do it on a video. You can't, I watch videos all day, I can do computers, I can do CBTs, I can do all that type of stuff, I can sit in front of a screen, I can do all those simulations, but you're not part of it. And when you're part of it and you're building that memory muscle, man, it just makes it so much more engaging when you get out there and go, oh, I remember this, I know this, I read the risk, I had to check off on it, right, so I know those pieces. Safe. If you're ever an administrator or someone at a school, safety is always key. You talk to the FAA, what's the first thing they're concerned about? Safety, right? Everything's about safety. I've had unfortunate events where students got injured at the school. Just because we are with things that move and hurt people potentially. This gets them now in a memory that they know that, you know what, you should not, you want to hear of one of those cutaway engines? You tell your kids not to put your fingers in it, right? You know, there's certain things that you can tell them all day long, and they just won't get, they just doesn't matter, they'll still do it. So now you get them engaged where hopefully they can learn from those experiences, and not hurt themselves. How many people want to, I mean, I don't think we have it on the task, how many people want to, you know, go into a fuel tank? There's an exciting one that we all want to do, right? I'd rather do it in virtual, really, as opposed to potentially having, who wants to be the guy that does the sewage tanks? Come on, there's some things that, you know, that people have to do, but we don't want to do it in a classroom. I definitely don't want to be the guy that has to demonstrate it to the students first. Let's put some of that stuff that we don't want to do, but we really need to cover. Let's put that in at least in a virtual environment so that they do get those experiences. Albeit not real, and really, I don't want to do it real, but at least the experience is there and you got a student comes out in a better environment. No, this is what I do. I help people. And again, I really, you know, it's great because both of my boys are A&Ps, my brother's an A&P. I love this stuff. I love working with schools. I'm like Chris, I like talking too. So for me to be able to create a partnership and work together with someone that is creating something really new and really cool, and at the end of the day, we're getting students that graduate. I got a school in here, we'll call him Mount Legacy. I mean, he had his first graduation. That was the coolest thing because that gives me goosebumps. I tell you what, that's where I get my biggest thing out of helping people. It's fun starting school, it's fun, you know, dealing with the FAA, because they're here to help. And it's fun getting through that whole process and getting the students, see them getting, you know, to the recruitment process, going through a program. But to me, the biggest joy is at the end when they have the graduation ceremony. Because now you've actually changed someone's life, right? You put them on a way into a career that if they're not stupid, is going to pay for them for the rest of their life. And I think that, to me, that's my personal reason to continue doing this. I retired back in 2020, thankful to the taxpayers of Florida. Yeah, that's all I got to say. I know at this point I guess we're going to do Q&A.
Yeah. So
anything like that.
now,
Oh, but before I stop though, if you have not had an opportunity to go up to the hall and put on the headsets, do it. Even if you think you're claustrophobic, do it. If you wear glasses, do it. Doesn't matter. It's really something if you haven't done before, at least do it once, right? And we're a safe environment. We won't laugh too much. And we promise we won't put any videos of you doing things silly. But it's something that if you haven't done it, go up there and try it out. It truly is a very unique environment, as well as something as Shawn was saying. This is where a lot of this training's going, and a lot of our students that are coming up that are much younger than us, this is already their game spec. This is where they are already doing things. And I don't think that there's going to be a time where we're going to go through this, that this is not going to happen one way or another. Okay, now you.
So I have two quick questions. So our program is hybrid. The students do quite a bit of work from home. Is there an opportunity for a couple of like cut down type modules where they might only need a mouse or a touchpad that we could link like in Canvas to specific labs to go over certain things, so they might not necessarily need a headset at home?
So we have created solutions because not also headsets are not the solution, right? You also have cases that just are sensitive to motion or that just don't want to put on a headset. I want to address another concern in terms of also decontamination and things like that. But we do create VR experiences that can also be deployed to tablets as well as through laptops or desktops. Of course, the VR is the immersive piece, but you can still create a very engaging solution through a laptop or a desktop, so we can definitely do that. There is a concern sometimes around, also kids putting on the headsets and then sharing those headsets. There's a company called Cleanbox that actually creates a device that decontaminates and cleans the headsets in 60 seconds. And that's the way we're able to have environments where you have multiple sets of students coming through and using the same headsets. And it's hospital grade. I mean, this solution is being deployed in hospitals for years. It has been deployed, and that's the way in which we deploy safe virtual reality environments as well. So I just wanted to make sure of that because I know that sometimes the concern is, right, my kid comes in, do I wipe it? No, you have a hospital-grade solution to decontaminate that. But yes, so, yeah. Second question, sorry.
My second question is, with what we were talking about yesterday in session 3 about the soft skills and manuals, is there an opportunity for some of that kind of training, manual utilization and things like that?
Yeah, on the manual side, as you saw, I mean, we can bring a tablet with all the manuals, and you can, I mean, we can make whatever it is in the manuals. From the soft skills perspective, we actually work also in other areas of like with nonprofits and higher education and other areas. We work with the Boys and Girls Club. Maybe some of you have that organization in your regions, and we're actually just doing soft skills. So we put them in environments where they do role play. So just a simple example, we have an environment where they play the role of a salesman in a car dealership in order for them to learn assertiveness and negotiation skills, or a chef in a restaurant where they learn how to organize time and plan and things like that. So soft skills is a great opportunity, just would have to be adapted specifically to the use case that that would work for you.
Thank you.
Roughly, let's just say for 50 students, right, how many headsets, would you recommend or be?
Yeah, so for example, so it depends on your classroom size, right? So for example, if you have 50 students and you have 15 or 20, that's what we would recommend, like one per student in your classroom, and then you can share that across your different classes.
Thank you.
Do you have a demonstration module that a school could use just to try it out?
Yeah, no, if you have a headset, we're able to give you like a 2-week trial period. They're the full application, so you can actually see how it works, how it will add value to your program, and then if you wanna, then you say, yeah, that makes sense, and then we can deploy a full license for you. But yeah, for anybody here, more than willing, if you have headsets already, to give you a trial license for a couple of weeks so you can test the programs, all of them.
When you were talking about making them read certain notes, are you, it's software, so I'm sure you can, I don't know if it's already built in, where you can kind of make them not be able to go on to the next check mark before some given time, right? Like a lot of our FAA stuff that we have for IA renewals, it's like, if you fast forward, guess what, you get to start over again.
Yeah, so the way we force them to do that, we actually have, let's say, a warning, even if it's 2 paragraphs, and a guided or a person, like a voice, a narration, you have to listen to the entire narration before you're able, and we have the voice disabled, that they've acknowledged they heard and read that. So there is no way for them to bypass that.
On the, you said Piedmont was adopting this into their training modules, correct? Okay, so if a student in the AAP program is getting exposure to it, is there some kind of assessment test or something that's done? So when that student applies at Piedmont, then they can show like a portfolio that says that they've already completed these trainings that Piedmont is requiring, and therefore it's kind of like a fast track to get them at Piedmont and recognized as a technician. Has it got that far yet, or is that still in the
Yeah, that's kind of a dual answer here between the two of us, so I'll take it from my side of things. For our training department, they're still going to have to go through our program. Getting introduced to the aircraft early on within theirs allows them to go through our program quicker, right? Because they're going to be more familiar. They're still going to have to do some regulatory stuff that we have and some set program details in order to become qualified. Getting that familiarization there allows them to jump into our program, and they're going to go through their OGTs much, much quicker. We're still going to go through the same courseware and things like that, because we still have our program requirements, if that makes sense on my end.
But if you've already adopted the IT to meet those program requirements, and if you have the assessment there, would they not already met that requirements? We do the similar thing with like Freightliner. Freightliner has a factory school. Our diesel mechanics program is now managed by Freightliner. So as a student goes through the diesel school, he's getting his ASE certifications and his Freightliner certifications. So when he completes now, he can present that to a company that does warranty work for Freightliner, and he sees the Freightliner certifications. They recognize that, and immediately goes to work as a Freightliner service tech. Could you not set up the same parallel system? To me, that would be beneficial on the airline side, if now you're not reporting.
We may be able to at some point, but right now, since a lot of our OJT tasks are around a specific function, either it be a repair and root-borne replacement of a component, an ops check, with the module currently designed being familiarization, it's going to be more inspection-based. So if we go further on where we're actually removing a component, installing a component, doing an ops check, then we could, depending on the complexity of the task, right? There's going to be always a need for OJT being hands-on, right? I don't think we would ever agree to sign somebody off on replacing an engine by virtually doing it beforehand, right? But could you do an inspection task, right? And signing them off with an OJT that requires them to do an inspection of placards or, certain functions. You could, but we just haven't gotten to that point yet.
And it's from our end of it, it's between, well, I'm gonna end up talking with Shawn more often. I spend a lot of time with, out of the Salisbury location, their maintenance manager. We talk a lot where it's because I like the day shift guys. We're gonna talk later about night shift. As well as, I love their day shift guys. I get to see them all the time. It turns into, if I have spare time, wander over to the hangar when I see him pull in, grab Marco and go, hey, what are you guys doing? What's this plane in for specifically? Because I know what we've done with the 145 platform already, what's there. And it turns into, oh, it's here for a very specific task. Cool, I make notes. Just to see, it's one of basically the next time we talk kind of do is, hey, would it be possible? Because I know they need these specific items, this is what they're doing, and it's on the inspection aspect of it versus the maintenance. But because I'm in hangar 1, they're in hangar 2. It takes taking 20 steps around the corner to be in their work environment. What can I do as a soon-to-be partner to expedite their training processes? So it's a lot of open lines of communication. Just figure out exactly where we're at and where can we take this general familiarization program and then dive down the rabbit hole a little bit more where it's beneficial to them, but I still have the ACS. All right, am I still in compliance where I want to help them as much as possible, but we have to follow the rules because we have to. So it's finding that happy balance between their benefit, my benefit, and then the student's benefit, just to top it all off.
And to your point, once the program's up and running to where the students are going through there, that's where that communication path between him and I are going to happen, where if he goes, hey, we're going to do these 5 tasks, all right, and they come in our door, can we give them credit for those 5 tasks because they're designed to our needs through his program? Sure, we just haven't gotten there yet. There's a potential for it, yes.
But there is the platform that also Chris showed allows us to capture anything from the familiarization, the maintenance task, to be able to do full reporting. That also could be used by Piedmont as well. And then the other piece that I think is important to mention is we can also integrate from the headset into your own learning management system. So if you have deployed Canvas or whatever other learning management system, we already have a module that integrates into it. So it goes directly into your existing system. So you don't have to come to our system to do reporting. We can go directly into yours.
And it'd be just like accepting previous training from any other operator, right? You're going to vet their program, ensure that their program their requirements meet your needs. And the same is going to happen here. It's just done differently because obviously the initial training virtual.
So we're done. So thank you so much for
We got the signal to kill.
Yeah, for spending time with us. Yeah, thank you.